So I've just started recording.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining in. I know that it's Friday afternoon. Probably waiting to go on a weekend. For some of us, the Friday has only just begun. Here in Copenhagen, Denmark, it's 8:30 in the morning. But I want to thank you for hanging in there and sticking with us for this demonstration of Cole's new installation of ConsortiaManager. Now, I thought today we're just going to quickly introduce you to what ConsortiaManager is and why Cole have selected to use ConsortiaManager to manage the acquisitions of all the content from the various publishers that you deal with. And then I'm going to give you a quick demo of what the member interface of ConsortiaManager looks like and how you use it. And then we're going to take the last part of the session for questions and answers. Yesterday it took an hour, roughly an hour, just over an hour, I think. But I think that it actually it worked well. That if you use the chat function in Zoom to post your questions, then Diane will keep track of all the questions and can then decide on whether she wants to stop me in the middle of the presentation or whether she wants to push back the answers to the end. Is that okay, Diane?
Yes, I should just say yesterday some people used the Q&A function.
Oh yes.
The chat is actually better because then everyone can see the question and it stays there when the question's been answered, whereas the Q&A doesn't. So please use the chat. Thanks.
Okay. Good. Now, I'll start out by introducing myself. My name is Niels Jensen. I am one of the two co-founders of ConsortiaManager. I have roughly 20 years of experience in the industry. I've worked for publishers such as Monsgard and Blackwell Science out of Copenhagen, out of the US. I've worked for Sweats before they went under, and I've worked for LM Information Delivery, which is also a subscription agent, and I've had all kinds of different roles: customer service, sales, publisher relations manager, country manager, regional director, chief commercial officer. So I've had a wide array of roles, but 7 months ago, we've been working on this project called ConsortiaManager for a while and had actually built a small little business. So we decided, Thijs and myself, that it was time to go all in on this project of ours. So even though ConsortiaManager was actually started as a project in 2014, it's only now that it's really gaining some traction with Consortia, because we've had a couple of years to work on the software tool. And when we started our project, it was for one specific consortium who wanted a system to manage all their agreements in. Other people heard about this and started contacting us, asking us about the price, and we didn't even have a name for the product. So we started working with a couple of other academic consortia, and more came on, so that we're now 17 consortia, primarily in the US and Europe, that are using the system. Around 2,300 institutions are managing their renewals through the system. And we're still a privately owned company where we don't have outside investors, and we're not looking for any. So we want to stay as much out of the corporate type of thing that we've been working with all our lives. Here are some of the customers that we're currently working with. There's a both public library consortia, there are hospital consortia, there are academic consortia, national consortia, private consortia. We've even got an organization like the UN using the system to manage the subscriptions for the various entities of UN on a global level. And the latest edition being CORE, of course, in the center. Now, before we get into the demonstration, I wanted to just briefly introduce you to what the purpose of ConsortiaManager is, because I think it'll help you understand better why CORE wants you to use a new interface to do your renewals and all these things. And it's very simple. It's trying to help consortia accomplish more with less effort. With all the new things that are going on in the world of information, the demands on consortia are increasing, and it's important we don't spend our time on non-value adding tasks when we could actually be focusing on things that deliver real value to members. Now, the idea is to enhance and streamline consortia services at the same time. And that's actually what we try to do. We try to enhance the service by adding more agreements, or at least making it possible to add more agreements, include more information on all the agreements, provide a certain level of decision support and overview for members so that they know what they're spending, they know what they will be spending next year, those types of things. And at the same time, we try to streamline, so try to make fewer errors, faster service, minimize the manual processes, which again goes back to the fewer errors, because every time you have to do things manually, you tend to make typos, etc. And then we try to remove duplicate work and automate all the repetitive tasks. And any of you who's into acquisitions knows that you basically have a lot of repetitive processes where you just ask for pricing from this publisher and from that publisher and the third publisher, but you do the same thing over and over again, just for different products or different publishers. And we try to consolidate that into single actions. Now, streamlining saves time for the consortium, and that means that the license managers, Alicia, Diane, can actually focus on things that that provide value. It could be the negotiation with the publishers. It could be advancing into a more complex agreement that haven't been available in the past, because that in an analog world it's simply too complex. It could be pick and choose packages or something like that. And the members, they benefit from this enhanced information that the consortium can deliver. Now, when we're talking about streamlining, we're talking about the acquisition cycle. The acquisition cycle, acquiring something, paying for it, adding information that's relevant to the acquisitions process, administrating the deal over time. Could be IP address changes to publishers, or any other kind of administration. Then we've got, at the end of the cycle, the evaluation, which decides on whether agreement should be renewed or not. And all these things goes into that. Everything from contact information from the vendors, license terms and conditions, FTE data for the members to use in pricing models. Foreign exchange rates is something that I've heard is important. Right now we're doing invoicing for call in the original currency, but still it will have an impact on your budget, what the Australian dollar is. The latest thing to be added to the system, or that we're working on at the moment, is research output for institutions and APC charges to get a grip on total financial engagement with the publishers. but that's still in an experimental phase, so to speak. So all these things have to go into to the acquisition cycle, but we still had to structure it. And the way that we structured this information when we built the system was that we created something called a progress bar. We could have called it anything, but basically it is a way for the consortium, it's the acquisition cycle of the consortium defined by themselves. So you got some stages, in this case, a planning stage, a negotiation phase, a finalization phase, confirmation and order placing phase, and then an invoicing phase. Now, you are typically, as consortium members, only involved in the last 3 phases. That's when you have the offers presented, you renew your subscriptions, and then you receive your invoices. But for the consortium, there's a whole range of things that have to be done before we actually get to that point. And ConsortiaManager breaks down each phase into various tasks that has to be done. So for instance, you want to start your renewal and request information on pricing for the next year from publishers. You can do that by a click of a button. Instead of doing it 100 times over for each publisher, you can do it once. You calculate the prices, and the system lets you know that things have to be done. It's published to you. The orders are placed with publishers, and we deal with the publisher invoices and invoice you as a member. And this puts all the information into one interface where you can see what you have to renew, your subscriptions, and I'll show you this in a short while. I only have this with me because this particular bit, the license information, is not yet in the system. So Diane had asked me to show you what this will look like when we define which license terms need to be quantified. It's not going to be these particular license terms. It's going to be license terms that are relevant to call. And this will be the way that you can actually look at licenses at a glance and see what you can actually do and not do. And of course, link to the agreements themselves. All right. Did I forget anything, Diane, about ConsortiaManager? Is there something that I didn't say that you would want me to touch on?
Not specifically. I'll come back to some commentary later after you've finished.
Okay. So before we actually go into the interface itself, I wanted to just, since we've only just uploaded the subscription data this week, I just wanted to give you a quick update on things that we've noticed that we have to either make a decision on or that we have to change in the system. We have uploaded FTE data, not just the total FTE data, but data for individual subject areas that are used when negotiating with publishers. We still have a few things to do in that regard with the way that it summarizes the FTE, but it's a small thing. Then we've got currency calculations. Since you're being invoiced in the original currency of the publishers, we've seen some summaries of amounts that weren't right, and we're also fixing that. So we're trying to create a common denominator so that you can see in Australian dollars how much you're paying and how your spend has developed over time. But in order to do that, we have to convert into Australian dollars, and we're not 100% sure about when we should fix the currency. So there are still a couple of small things. Remember, this system is actually tailored to call's need. It's not really off the shelf. Then you're also being invoiced out of MYOB, and we still need to make a decision on whether we should display invoices in the system to you or whether we should leave that out. So it's just to let you know that there are some things that it's difficult to do in advance. You really have to see it before you decide. And then the license itemization that we just talked about. All right, that's it for sort of the general talk. So I want to take you to the actual site. And let's see here. And I'm gonna select a member. I thought we had Deakin University. Let's do that. And I'm going to take the role of Katie. I don't know whether Katie is on today. I just want to point out that I'm currently at our staging server, which is our test environment, so that I can actually renew and order and cancel stuff without anything really going off to the publishers. So I'm not playing around with Deakin University's budget. I just want to make that clear. This is your landing page that you'll see when you open up the system. You will have renewal subscriptions, and right now we're just starting to publish offers to you. So right now there's only 6 published offers, but this will be a much longer list once Alicia starts publishing, finalizing the prices and publishing the offers. But you have your renewal subscriptions on top. Then you've got various offers that you're currently not subscribing to, but that's actually available through the consortium. You've got more available agreements that have just been posted but are not necessarily listed for you. And then you've got all your recent actions, all the stuff that you've accepted and all the stuff that you've rejected over time. Now, you've also got an overview of what you are, how many subscriptions you have, what you're spending. This is 2018, so please be aware that there's only, at this time, 1 subscription. Orders and renewals, how is our acceptance rate compared to what we have to do completely, and how many subscriptions have we had per year. Now, the data that's included right now, when you look at Project Muse, for instance, here, you see that there's a price, the price in original currency. There's a period mentioned. So here you can see that it's January 1st to December 31st, 2018. You've got a deadline for replies marked in bold. So this is the 31st of October, 2017. You've got product info. So all the stuff that Alicia and Diane has put down around this product is here, so you can read about it. You can also see if there's particular things around the price that they felt that they needed to tell you about. So not just the price itself, but it could be the way that the price has been calculated, the pricing matrix or a tiered pricing model could be mentioned here. It could also be links. So here you can see that there's some links out to a list of titles, and there's a breakdown of what has increased and how. There's a notes field that if there are any particular notes that the consortium felt that they should give you along with your renewal, they will be listed there as well. You've got your subscription options, and in this case there are multiple selections. Sometimes there's only one, so we can look at the Charleston Advisor afterwards. Charleston Advisor is just that, the Charleston Advisor. There's no options, but in this case you've got different options. You can tell that you already subscribe to the premium collection because this will be pre-ticked when you open up the subscription options. But you can select other options and it will automatically tally up the price for you. But let's just, for this purpose, let's just stick with the premium collection. When you click order, it'll open up a light box, and it will allow you to either put in an overall PO number for all the products, or you can put in a PO number for the individual products. the way that these things are displayed is based on consortium preference. So for instance, if CORE wants to deal with all EBSCO databases in one go, then the EBSCO agreement will maybe called EBSCO databases, and with all the individual databases as selections underneath that. That's particularly useful if you've got cross-product discounts. So if you choose more than 5, you get a 5% discount and so on. But they could also be listed individually. So you've got CINAHL as its own product, and then you've got the ERIC database as its own product. That's completely up to the consortium. But let's say that we're trying to order this and we got a purchase order reference. The next thing you do is we ask you to rate the product. And this is very important. This is something that if you do this, it will provide great insight for the consortium when they negotiate with publishers. Often when consortia negotiate with publishers, they have to rely on anecdotal type stories that says something like, oh, everybody's saying that this is a really expensive product. It's not as powerful as when you have data that you can actually say, well, you know what, your price rating has decreased over the last year. You started at 4, now you're at 1, and what's going to happen when we hit 1? How many cancellations are you going to get? So it's very important that you just take the 20 seconds to actually rate this, to let the consortium know from your subjective standpoint, how do you find this? The best example that I can think of is usage data. So you can have 2 institutions, they subscribe to the same resource, and they both have 1,000 hits, 1,000 full text downloads. One will say, this is the best product that we have, we're renewing. And the other institution, which may be a huge university, will say, we're only getting 1,000 hits, we're going to cancel this. So sometimes the objective numbers don't tell the whole truth. So take the time. It takes like 10 seconds to fill this out, but it will give great information to call. Now, once you've done that, you simply just confirm, and then the renewal will disappear from your overview. Now, if it's a new offer that you wanna take up, so we mentioned the Charleston Advisor here before. Of course, you can go and do the same thing. Look at individual product info, etc. But here, there's only one. That's the Charleston Advisor Online. So let's say that we wanna order this. So here you got the same thing. And of course, you won't be asked to rate this because you've never had it before. So it's only on renewals that you get asked to rate things. But we confirm, and then that disappears from the front page as well. Now, that actually brings me to the next area of the system, which is where you keep your subscriptions and your agreements. Now, under agreements, you've got subscriptions. That means what you're currently subscribing to. Right here, it's all the active subscriptions that are being shown. You can look at 2017, for instance, alone. You could also look at 2018. And here you see that if we've taken out a subscription for Charleston Advisor, we've renewed Project Muse and University of Chicago Press. We're still waiting on the renewal for Morningstar data analysis and AMS Mass Signet 2018. Good. All right, and I will show you the available agreements that are there. So here you see the ones that you could actually select, both the one that you already subscribe to, but also the ones that you're not subscribing to. And you will see that there's a difference here that when you're trying to look at something that you've not subscribed to before, it will actually ask you to request a price. And the reason why it does this is that it sends off an email to call, is that if you get to, let's say, January, and you find out that you have more money or you need a new resource, we don't want to allow you to just buy it at the full price. If there's an opportunity to get a prorated price, that's what call wants to do. So that's why they request a price for you instead of just ordering directly with the publisher. The license summary and the invoice overview are the things that I mentioned that we have really not we've really not filled out yet. But you will see that all the individual agreements that are subscribed through call will have a set of headlines out this way saying, is walk-in user access allowed? Do we get a PC discount? So whatever it is that you want to quantify, and you will be able to sort all the agreements by the license criteria that you've selected. Same thing goes if we decide to include the invoices. This is where you would usually see all the invoices that have been created, but it's still up for decision on whether to include it here, because all the actual invoices are going out through MYOB, the finance system of call. So it's still a little bit up in the air. Now, in terms of reports that you could want to get out, there are some preset agreements and member statistics that you can just select. So for instance, if you want to look at the subscriptions for 2017, you just generate a standard report. It opens up an Excel spreadsheet, and you can get all the data out there. Basically, everything that's in the system is your information and calls information. So you can get everything that you want out of the system. Let me just go back. And you can do the same thing for members. If you need something specific that you run all the time, that's very sort of special to you, you can create a custom report. So we could create custom report. Well, let's see, 1, 2, 3. And we will say, okay, this is our subscription. We need all the subscriptions from 2010 to 2017, and you need some specific things here. And you can save it, and then it will actually just be up here so that you can activate it whenever you want. There's also the cost avoidance report. And this is something that's actually useful and something that goes back to the currency issue that I mentioned in the beginning. Because in order to display the value of the consortium to you, we're trying to include both the list price and the final price that you're paying, so that you can get an overview of what was actually the cost avoidance. So here, you could see that there's a list price and there's a final price. There's a saving in local currency, and then there's an estimated saving in Australian dollars, so that we can summarize it. I think this is actually, let's see here. So here we got 2018. We've just renewed these. Well, we've taken out an order for the Charleston Advisor, and we've renewed our Project Muse. They're both in US dollars, so we can see what the list price is. We can see what the final price is. We can see what the savings is in US dollar, and we have an estimate saving in Australian dollars. And of course, all this stuff can be exported from the screen if you don't want to go to reports first. There's a contact section which actually gives you an address book of everyone who's in the consortium, what their job title is, their email and telephone. So if you want to if you want to contact someone else in the consortium, you've got all the information, the contact information here. Now, it could be that, if we just go to the overview again, that if, for instance, you go to an agreement, MassSignet, and let's say you go and want to take a look at who else subscribes to this. So you can see right now, no one has actually renewed this agreement for 2018. But let's go to 2017 and then see who else actually subscribes to this. So if you want to get in touch with someone else who's subscribing, you can actually find who else is subscribing here. Then you can go to the address book, or you can go directly to the contact form, because then you can actually get in touch with both vendors, call, or other members of the consortium. So in this case, let's say it's vendor. If you don't know who the contact for McGraw-Hill Companies is, you can find it here that it's actually Bob McLeod. So you can actually contact him through this interface. You could also just go and find the contact information on the page of the agreement. But this does allow you to contact the vendors directly through the system. The email will look like it's coming from you, not from ConsortiaManager, and the response that comes back will come to your own email and not into ConsortiaManager, just so you're aware of that. All right, so
Nels, yesterday somebody asked about retaining the record of all of the correspondence that went through the system. So that was useful for some people.
Yes, everything that you do in the system is actually kept in what we call interactions. So under profile, you've got interactions in the consortia part of the system. Everything, of course, is also kept there for the consortium reference. But here you can see everything that you've done. So here you see that it's actually Diane, which is the role that I've taken this morning, who's accepted Charleston Advisor on behalf of Katie Ferguson. So everything is recorded. Everything is in here and can be found again. Just as long as you remember that as ConsortiaManager is not sort of an email communication tool, it just makes it easy to find the information and send out off an email from the system. But the responses comes back to you. The responses don't get locked in ConsortiaManager. Was that enough response, Dan?
Yes, that's fine, thanks.
Okay. Now your profile is also something that we're going to be asking you to update from time to time. Now, Call takes care of your FTE information, and as you see here, we've selected a few: business management, engineering, law, and medicine, apart from the total FTE. And that's because some of the publishers are actually using those data rather than the total FTE to come up with prices. And it also provides a little bit of leverage that if you have some kind of medical information product and your medical FTE numbers are going down, then maybe you can leverage that to not get the same increases.
Nils, while we're on that, you can see the differences between 2014 and 2015. And the reference earlier to needing to fix the total FTEs is this 37,000, which is adding up all of these, when in fact it should already include them, as the 2014 one does. So that's something that needs to be corrected.
Yeah, I think it's because usually when we break down FTE, we break down all the FTEs, but here we didn't want to register everything. So obviously these are just subsets, independent subsets. So we'll figure that out. I mean, basically we've got the data, so it's just about not adding them up, but leaving them separate and having the total FTE number as a separate number. So it's a small thing. We'll have it fixed in no time, maybe even today. All right. Probably the most important thing is the user accounts. This is where you decide who is actually allowed to use the system and what are they allowed to do. You can see here we've got Katie, who's the electronic resources librarian. She's an administrator. Now, administrators can, apart from using the system and changing everything in the system, they can also create other users. So if you're an administrator, you can create other users, whereas Peter Hanley is view only. And that means that Peter can only view things in the system, cannot change information, cannot renew subscriptions or cancel them for that matter. If Peter is supposed to do that, we will need to upgrade to a user account. So let me just show you how to do that. So here you see the personal information of Peter, and you can actually just go here, change that person to a user. You can also list whether they're primary contacts. The primary contact can only be assigned to one user at a time, and there has to be one primary contact. If there are any specific invoicing contacts, that will be the person who receives invoice information out of ConsortiaManager. However, since you're using MYOB for invoicing, this will have no effect on you. You can also register what kind of areas of responsibilities people have, so that you know what they're actually doing. And of course, you can deactivate the accounts if they no longer work at the institution. There will be some basic information that you can register. If there's any kind of billing information that call decides to include, it'll be listed here. You will have some information, additional information available. So for instance, do you want invoice grouping, or should we invoice per subscription? Are there any particular invoicing references that we need to include? There will be invoicing information if we decide to include it in the system. And you will have IP addresses registered in here as well. Now, the IP addresses are the ones where you could probably take advantage of the system. If you subscribe to products from 25 different vendors today, if you go here and change your IP address, those vendors will automatically be notified. So for instance, if you added a new IP address or you needed to change one of the existing IP addresses, you can do it here. You can also add a location and a description to the IP address. So if the IP address covers a satellite location or something like that, you can actually put it in here.
Can I butt in there?
Yes.
Just on the things that we're leaving it open for individual members, administrators, datasets coordinators to change. We've left IP addresses with you rather than you telling us and us updating it. However, if you find that that's for somehow messing up the system because somebody's changed it and they haven't given it the correct format, and if there are too many mistakes being made out there, we could always make the decision to change that back and have it come through us. There are only two areas where we aren't letting you make any changes to that profile, And the first one of those is your institution name. We're using a standard name for your institution, and it's the authority version, and we don't want anyone changing that. Institutions sometimes do, but we'll make the changes at this end. The second thing that we won't let you change are the FTE numbers. As you know, we get them from government and we use the official figures. So we're not letting you touch those. One of the questions that came through was from Belinda, who asked about exchange rates. And even though we haven't worked out exactly at what point we're going to put exchange rates into the system for a particular product, Belinda asked if they could put their own in for their own products.
Yeah, it's a bit complicated if we want to do it the same for everything, because some of the invoicing goes through call, some goes direct, and the invoicing that goes directly from the publisher to the member is not, call will never be able to say when was this actually sent out and when was it paid for. And it's really the point in time where you pay it that actually defines what the actual cost in local currency was. What we've done so far, what we've decided to do so far, is that when we receive the invoice in, let's say, US dollars, and call pays the invoice, at the time of payment, we will fix that, because then at least call will know how much it actually cost them in terms of Australian dollars.
No, that's not quite the case. Because the case is that we never handle it in Australian dollars, and it's when the institution pays us that exchange occurs, unless they've purchased ahead. So that's why it's only ever going to be a ballpark figure. It'll be around the time. So unless there's been a sudden change, and there have been known to be, it'll just be a ballpark figure. But the question is it only call that enters this information, or can individuals put their own exchange rates in?
Yeah, they can't be put in by the member themselves at the moment. It's not a request that we've had before, actually, but I see the point of being able to, when you pay in the original currency, two different members can pay at completely different times. One pay the invoice on the 1st of September, and then the other one pays it on the 30th of September, and the currency could have fluctuated over that time. So their prices for the same product, same price in original currency, could be different. So I see the point, but it's not possible right now.
And the other question relating to currency was from Ali, and it was essentially when you were talking about being able to display figures in Australian dollars, she just wanted to confirm that, and I know this is true, that you'll always be able to see it in the native currency.
Yes, that's the primary display. It's only when we do things where we try to summarize, places where we have difficulties is that, well, I know that call doesn't do usage data, but for instance, if for some of the other consortia, when they want to do cost per download or something, if you want to be able to compare across all the agreements in the entire consortium, you have to find a common denominator. Otherwise, it'll be comparing £1 per download to $1 per download. What is that? You have to find that common denominator, and that's when I showed you the cost avoidance report. This is what we try to do here. We mention what the savings are in US dollars, and then in pounds, and then in euros, etc. And then we estimate what that saving is in Australian dollars at this given time. So that's a bit of a challenge for us. It's not necessarily a technical challenge. It's more making a call and then sticking with that, so that you always know what it's based on. If you see an Australian dollar amount, where did that come from? When was that actually transferred from euros into Australian dollars? But it is a bit of we need to make some decisions on it for sure.
Well, what we thought was that at the time that Call pays the invoice, even though we haven't done the exchange rate, we'll have got the money from you sometime in the last 30 days. And unless, as I said, there are big fluctuations, we can do a reasonable ballpark figure.
Yeah. But this is actually a great example of, usually a consortia, they invoice in their own currency. So that means that we have typically it would work like this. We send an order to the publisher sends us an invoice in their own currency. We pay it and we fix the currency at that point in time. We use that exchange rate to actually calculate the invoices to the members. And that is what would be here. Now we've got a one-to-one translation. So we're going to take this out completely. And then we're only going to show it at the point in time where we decide to fix to fix the currency exchange rate, because that will allow you to look at price developments over time. But we have to do it in a consistent way in order for it to be useful. So I hope that kind of explains why there's somewhat of a built-in challenge with invoicing in different currencies, different foreign currencies, and why that makes it difficult to compare across publishers depending on, from different countries and different currencies. All right. I already went to the interactions. I think that pretty much concludes what we had to look at today. Just to summarize, you don't really have to use the system for anything else than your renewals and your cancellations, but really make sure that when you renew your subscriptions or you cancel your subscriptions, don't just cancel or so let's say here, don't just order it or cancel it. Remember to also give your rating of the product, because it will actually help. It will help Call, and also it will make for better negotiations with the publishers if Call gets some more consistent data on what people think about content versus price, etc.
I have a question from Belinda again.
Yeah.
This one is about essentially content, asking if they will still be able to see the original offer documents, and the answer is yes. We expect that we will continue to make the documents available as we do now on the website. We try to make the same kind of information available in that content. We'll upload Word documents, PDFs, spreadsheets, the same as we do now, but some of the information we'll be using in structured form so that you'll be able to use ConsortiaManager to produce the kind of data that Nels is showing you now, including your cost avoidance, your total expenditure, or your list of subs. At the moment, we can produce for you out of MYOB all of your Call subs for which we do the invoicing. However, for the ones that we don't do the invoicing, we can't produce those lists for you because we keep our information according to the publisher and product, not according to the institution. So That is one thing that you'll now be able to get because we'll be putting all of the data into the system. And just going to the data that we've put into the system, where we have MYOB data, so when we've been doing the invoicing, we were able to export all the 2016 and 2017 records out. So we already have in there what you have for the stuff that we've been invoicing for. So that the ones we haven't been doing the invoicing, as the 2018 offers are coming in, we're making sure that we get a 2017 report of who's got what and how much they paid for it, so that we use that as a stepping stone for doing the 2018 offer. So that we aren't doing retrospective filling of 2015 backwards, but we will have enough information into the system to be able to go forward and start doing your trend data from there.
Yeah, I think I could just add to that I mean, the further back you go, the more changes you've had in product names and titles that have merged and split up and so forth. So the further back you go, the more difficult it becomes to actually update the data. And I also do want to let you know that, I mean, we've uploaded a ton of information, both from MYOB and from outside MYOB. And I mean, in my experience, it's almost impossible to import those amounts of data without something somewhere, you know, creating a wrong amount or something. So if you do stumble on things that, like in this case here, you say, oh, wait a minute, the premium collection isn't 49, it's 59,000. It's just a you know, either a common mistake or a typo or something. We'll go in and we'll change it. Just let Call know that there's something wrong, because we don't notice that, you know, of course this should be 50,000 and not 49,000, but it's obvious to you. But just before I actually, we had some questions yesterday about the title lists and the way that we upload them. You will of course be able to open up spreadsheets of the title lists, but you will also be able to itemize your title list, and Call is working to get KBOT format files from the publishers so that we can automatically tally up which journals left the package and which came in, and also allow you to download those files if you need them for your own systems, whether it be, you know, link resolvers or something else. So that's something that the functionality is there, but if the publishers decide not to deliver KBOT format files, you know, you will have you will have the possibility to have an actual file that you can just download and open from the system.
I've got two questions, and they're both essentially asking the same thing, and they're about when the system alerts you to what's happening. And in fact, yes, Jenny, Tom, when in the way that we now send you an email to say information is available for this now and let us know by X if you want to renew. Instead of our doing that, what we will have will be the publisher offers, and we essentially tick that off here and decide who it goes to, whether it goes to all current subscribers or whether it goes to everybody, and you will automatically, it'll go to all the people in the system.
And I'll just, yeah, you can actually
and there will be reminders as well. I should say that there won't be any more naughty lists, because I won't be doing group emails to follow up. It'll be individual emails to you when we trigger them, or some of them will be automatic if you haven't responded in time.
Yeah, so I can actually just show how I just did very quickly pricing for annual reviews, and it's not very correct, but just to get an offer out there that we could publish. So for instance, annual reviews online is fairly broad, but if you had a very niche product that only 2 institutions subscribe to, you don't necessarily want to email everyone that this offer is now available. You just want to alert the renewing institutions. Now, if you've already processed 10 offers on that particular day, maybe you just want to publish it. Maybe you want to publish an email. But that depends on, that's left up to call's discretion, so that they don't put 10 emails in your inbox if they don't have to. But that's up to them. So once you publish that, to the website, it will become available to all the members, and at a given time, I think 14 days before the expiration date of the offers, the send reminders button will light up. So here there will be a task for Diane or Alicia where they can send a reminder to everyone who has not yet renewed their subscription, and then 3 days ahead of the expiration date, an automated email will be sent just to remind you that it's now last chance for this particular renewal.
So we'll be making some adjustments to those dates as we work out, even though we've got a default date in there of the 31st of October. As usual, when we're publishing stuff earlier, we won't want to be waiting till the 31st of October to finalise things. So we'll be pulling those dates forward as we need to and extending them as we need to, as we do at the moment.
The dates that you will be asked to do things and the dates that you will be, the deadlines that you will have can be different from agreement to agreement. Because some publishers are just notoriously late with their pricing, and others are very early. And some you can wrap up and finalize quickly in the fall, and others you have to wait until the very last minute in December to do this. So you can do all that, and if we just look at the way that that we register the orders. We just had an order. We did an order for MathSciNet, and that was Deakin University. And you see here how Diane and Alicia will be able to keep track of who's actually subscribed what and how many orders have come in. So if all the renewals have been made here, you might as well send the order off to the publisher and close this agreement up. But if it's not in, then you know that it's not in, and you can wait for the final agreements to be renewed or canceled. All right. Any other questions that we needed to? I can see there was something in the chat.
Yes, Catherine said, can we set up something in our profile to notify us that there is a new offer without going into the system?
Don't
the alerts go to their emails?
Only if you decide to publish them will they be alerted. So if...
Yeah, but if we publish an email, it'll go to their email.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So when if call decides that you should have an email, I think actually that's what we decided that should happen, Diane, if I'm not remembering this wrong. But then if Diane chooses to email you, that's where you get your reminder that something's waiting for you. It's only if for instance, let's say you find out that you made a mistake in pricing. So you want to go back, roll back the agreement, change the pricing, and then push it back out. There's no reason to necessarily send off a new email. It's just you would just want to correct it and push it back onto the member interface. That could be an example of where you wouldn't want to notify people.
I just, on that, a couple of things about overview, just going back to the license terms issue.
Yeah.
We opted to include that module in it, but we have to set it up, and it's a matter of determining which of the terms, we don't want to put in every alternative term, but which are the terms that you automatically go looking for when you look for a license. And as Nels mentioned before, remote access, although it happens so rarely that it's not included, that do you want to? Interlibrary loan, overseas interlibrary loan, printed course packs, online course packs, alumni included, for example. So those are the types of things that we would set up, but that's going to be very much a manual process because we will actually have to read the licenses and tick the boxes to identify what they are. So that'll be a much slower process of getting started up. And the other thing is that one of the other module, we've basically taken the basic system. There is other functionality, but we're not going to implement it now. But the cost avoidance module is the other one that we deliberately put in there so that as long as we put in the list price, you'll get a cost avoidance report. It's not a savings report because you'd never have spent the list price on it. However, it does say what you would have spent had you spent the list price and how much different you're getting out of it. And that's a useful report both for individual institutions to say, well, we're doing this stuff by call and this is how much money we're saving or avoiding. And it's useful for call as a whole. So any other, also, we're recording this session, so this session and yesterday's session will be available from the ConsortiaManager page. But does anyone else have any questions? Will the license be posted at the same time as the offer, even if the license terms are not updated? We will be posting the license terms, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I think
we will be posting the license. That is, we will be posting the document that is the license within the content. So absolutely. The license terms is just the next layer, is somebody going through it and saying which terms does this one include. Yeah, thanks, Catherine.
Yeah, basically when you start a renewal, when call starts a renewal, call can decide how much information should be pulled over from last year. So let's say it's a 3-year agreement, for instance. Well, then the license is going to be the same as it was last year. Is the product the same? The content summary, should it be changed? No, it's still the same product. Okay, great. Then we pull that over. However, maybe the title list has changed, so we don't want to pull that over to next year. And the same thing, of course, with the pricing information. Is it still valid that they have a 7-tier price with the APA, and these are the different tiers and the FTE numbers for each tier? Maybe that's still valid. Okay, then we can pull that over. But that's actually what decides whether you want to pull over the license terms right away. But you can actually publish the offer without having uploaded the content, without having uploaded any kind of license information.
Except we don't do it that way. So
no. But you can.
There's a lot of things that we will continue to do information-wise and timing-wise. It's just that we won't be required to capture the data in the same way. For example, we don't require you to respond via email, but you respond via the system. Therefore, we don't have to capture your responses and work out who hasn't responded. The system will do that for us.
Yeah.
And although it's entirely possible to leave it entirely to you to go to the site and to look at your dashboard to see what's waiting. I strongly endorse the push method, as we've been doing all along, is to tell you when something's available. Even though we have that list of current offers on the website, we always tell you at least once that it's there.
Yeah. So here's actually an example of what we just talked about before, the content files that are itemized instead of just created as an Excel spreadsheet for you to download. And, and the good thing about this is that in the future, when if Call decides to get a little bit more expansive on its services to members, having the title list itemized in this way, and preferably with the in the KBOT format, so that we have coverage and all those things. But it is also that you can link your research output to it. You can link your usage data to it. You really need that itemized in order to do that in an intelligent way. So that's just an example here with Project News that Alicia has already uploaded the titles for 2017 into the system, even though she's also included a link out to the collection and an actual file in the system. So Call is basically giving you every chance to get the information, whether you want it from the publisher's website in an Excel spreadsheet or in this type of itemized version.
Okay, no other questions coming through at the moment.
All right.
So thank you, Nels. I'm going to send you an email shortly. But otherwise, thank you for giving up your time and so early in the morning, as you usually do. And thank you everyone for joining us. And as I said, the recording will also be available if you missed something and want to go back and hear it again. But I'll also be picking up on the questions that you and the folks yesterday asked to add to the FAQs. So last chance, everybody. Okay, thank you, and I'll close the meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ali.
Bye.